Today, we become legends.
So Gilgamesh has been revealed, and we have full details on his abilities and in-game design. If you want these quick news breakdowns as fast as possible, be sure to subscribe to the channel and ping the bell, but without wasting any more time, let's just jump in. So Gilgamesh feels very traditional to me. He's a big, beefy frontline bruiser that loves being tanky and in the thick of the fight. It's a nice breath of fresh air from the very complex gods they've been releasing recently. His kit is fairly basic, but does seem to have a lot of depth and massive synergy between abilities. He does remind me a lot of Hercules in some ways. He seems to be a traditional solo lane bruiser with some viability in the jungle, however I can even see him having some potential in the support role due to his intense lockdown and some team support capabilities. He's very much an ability and auto-attack hybrid warrior with plenty of damage coming from basic attacks, but also a lot from abilities as well. His primary focus though does seem to be on tanking and being a frontline bruiser. But let's just jump in with his abilities. So his passive is the Epic of Gilgamesh. Essentially what this passive provides is 2 quests, one at level 5 and one at level 10. The first quest you have to visit a specific location that will be roughly near where you are when you hit level 5, so if you're playing him in solo and you hit 5, it's going to be somewhere around like the solo side jungle maybe. And the second quest is to defeat half of the enemy team rounded up in a single fight, so if you're playing him in Conquest that'll be 3 people in a single fight. It doesn't have to be Gilgamesh that gets those kills as far as I'm aware, you just have to defeat them in one fight as a team. And each time Gilgamesh completes a quest he is awarded either a tier 1 item or 500 gold if he doesn't have space for a tier 1 item in his inventory. So often at level 5 you're going to do that first quest, you'll get like the start of your first item probably. The first ability is Sunforged Scimitar. This is his basic attack synergy ability. I mentioned in the intro that he does have some basic attack synergies. This is pretty much where it all comes from. So you ignite your sword, dealing damage in an area around you and slowing enemies' hits. And then from then on, your basic attacks deal 3.5% of your max health in bonus damage to enemies' hits. This has a fairly short duration initially, but every basic attack you hit extends the duration. It's sort of somewhat like a reverse Erlangchen one, so every time you hit an enemy you can extend the duration of this buff, and it can go up to a maximum of 12 seconds, which is a very long time in Smite. So basically you want to go in, you want to pop this, keep them slowed, keep them in range, and just keep basic attacking them over and over again because you're going to extend that duration and get more and more value from this ability. And obviously it scales with 3.5% of his maximum health, so you do want to be building quite a bit of health to make this effective. It's basically like a built-in animosity. His second ability is really cool, like animation-wise, and it looks like it's going to feel really good when you use it in-game. It's the Dropkick. So essentially you target an area in front of you, you don't have enormous range on this, the range is quite short, but you damage enemies in the area while the closest enemy you launch through people. The launched enemy takes bonus damage when hitting a minion, or takes burst damage and is stunned when hitting a god or a wall. So it's somewhat similar to a Kumba belly flop in a way, but you can Kumba belly flop the gods, not just the minions, and then obviously it deals damage to minions as you go through, so you can use this for wave clear. So if like the enemy god is something like an Amaterasu or something that has to like clear the wave from the front, you can drop kick them through that wave, they take a ton of damage that way, so it's going to be probably a very good matchup in terms of Amaterasu, gods like that have to stand in front of the wave in solo, and this should be pretty good for that. And obviously this ability is just a really good engage. You can like blink in or jump behind people, push them back into your team like you can with traditional pushes like Hercules and Tyr and things like that, but you can also just throw them straight into a wall that's close by and get the up to 1.5 second stun and immediately follow up with like your other abilities and things like that. This seems like really the sort of core of his kit really, and a lot of his power is going to come from this, it seems like. Also, if you do hit an enemy god, you stun both, so like if you knock one god into another god, like maybe you blink onto their backline, you knock their mage into their hunter, they're both going to get stunned, which looks like it's going to be pretty powerful in my opinion. Like you could blink into the backline, dropkick their Scylla into their Apollo, they both get stunned, your team could just like follow up on them because it's a 1.5 second stun. If they don't have beads, it's definitely going to hurt, even if it's just Gilgamesh following up on that. But yeah, the dropkick looks really fun. I'm very excited to use this. It's one of those really feels-good warrior abilities. It reminds me a lot of Drive Can Strike on Hercules, and I'm a big fan of that ability, a big fan of Hercules in general. And as I said in the intro, this god does remind me a little bit of Hercules in that he's like a really fun-looking, sort of almost trolly in a way, design that's very simple in terms of how the abilities work, but they have a lot of synergy and a lot of depth in terms of actually using them properly. Ability 3 is Heroes Advance. This is his generic leap. He leaps, does damage in a pretty big area actually. I'm not sure what the radius is, but it looks pretty large. And then you'll do damage and lay down an area, so think about like a Hachiman banner but a lot bigger. And in this area you gain movement speed plus 10% lifesteal and an additional amount of lifesteal based on the protections of the Gilgamesh. So if you have higher protections, you're going to give more lifesteal. And this applies to not only you, but your entire team. So if you can get your team stood in this pretty large area, they're going to get quite a bit of additional lifesteal and movement speed, which is going to be very nice. And also, if the ally is not in the area, as you run towards this area, it's like a beacon. As you run towards the beacon, you gain like a pretty massive movement speed boost. Like Like, the movement speed inside the circle is decent. The movement speed if you're running towards the circle is huge. And finally, the ultimate sort of ties the kit together, really. It is one of those kits where it's really tied together by the ultimate, in my opinion. So you call down a Ring of Wind at the target location for 6 seconds. It does initial damage and then tick damage every 0.5 seconds. They're also slowed when the initial hit happens. And then if Gilgamesh himself damages any enemies that are trying to get out of the ring, they're thrown back to the middle each time. And after the full 6 seconds is up, the winds end and it damages, roots, and cripples enemies who are still inside the ring. So basically, the idea of this ability is that you want to slap it down on the backline and just keep the backline in there at all costs, because once it ends, you get a massive bonus damage. It's sort of like a reverse King of the Hill. You want to jump in, you want to keep people inside that ring as much as you can by like damaging them to pull them back to the middle. Also, dropkick. If you dropkick someone in the ring, they'll bounce off the winds. So like you can, if someone's about to escape, you can dropkick them, bounce them off the wall and keep them inside the ring. So this is what I mean about, like, there's very heavy synergy with this kit, and they've done a lot with somewhat basic abilities, in my opinion, which is a really fun design. A lot of warriors are designed this way, and I really like the ones that are. And if you do keep them in the end in the ring for the full time when it expires after 6 seconds, it does massive damage at the end. It's 450 plus 60% physical power, so quite a lot of damage. And also you're going to get that root and cripple at the end, which basically stops them doing anything movement-wise. So basically, if you can keep them in for the full duration of this ring, they're probably dead at that point, because they've been in the same area for 6 seconds. They've probably been like brutally beat down by your teammates, and then they get root crippled at the end. Like, basically the objective here is keep them in the ring. But yeah, that's my overview of Gilgamesh. He looks insanely fun in my opinion. Like I said, reminds me a lot of Hercules and some of those other warriors that are designed with basic abilities in mind, but very high synergy, and they do a lot with what they've been given. I do have to say the passive is a little boring. I'm a little disappointed in the passive, but other than that, this kit looks really fun and I'm super excited to use it. Let me know what you guys think about it down below. I'm going to keep this one fairly short because I know a lot of you guys just want the information. You want to know what he does and what I think of him. You don't want to see like a 40-minute video rambling about him, so I'm going to keep this one fairly short. So like, subscribe for more news videos and all that kind of stuff, and I'll catch you guys in another one later on. Have a great day, and peace out, you nerds.